What is up, everybody? Solomon here. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. Every once in a while, we do stumble across some really interesting things that come out of some of these government initiatives when they're dealing in crypto, when they're dealing in DLT. And today was certainly that example for me. I stumbled across this. This is from the House of Lords, which essentially is one of the parliament seatings within the UK's government. I think there's the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and I forget the third one. But regardless, it's central bank digital currencies, a solution in search of a problem. Now, what's really interesting in here is that there's a portion in which the House of Lords, this governmental document, states, we heard that the Bank of England has X capabilities. And within the footnotes that they reference within X capabilities, are the Bank for International Settlements document of a trial in conjunction of a lot of these other central banks, and directly Ripple themselves within this right here, committees.parliament.uk. So let me kind of get to that section for you guys, but I thought it was just a really interesting piece that you don't necessarily stumble across every day. Now, I guess as a little bit of a sidebar here, we do know that Bank of England has stated, Victoria Cleland from Bank of England has stated multiple times over the past 2 or 3 years that Bank of England's new renewed real-time gross settlement system will not be built on top of distributed ledger technology, but it will have the capabilities of interfacing with distributed ledger technology. And their technology integrator, we do know, also was chosen as Accenture. Not guaranteeing anything, but we do know that Accenture is a Ripple partner. Accenture does RippleNet integrations as well. And we also know that Ripple had trials with Bank of England in 2016, along with some interledger trials. And you can make your own assumptions as to whether or not they trialed the digital asset portion of it, which would obviously be XRP. All right, so this document, again, Central Bank Digital Currencies, a solution in search for a problem, printed on the 14th of December, but published January 13th. It's a gigantic document, about 52 pages if you want to read through it. Now, this first paragraph kind of gives a summary before they get into all of their action items and bullet points. And it's basically just stating that the Bank of England and HM Treasury jointly exploring the potential of a CBDC. All right. So this is what I found interesting. Now, this is all of their bullet points within this, okay? This is, again, House of Lords through the UK Parliament and this CBDC document. 71. A digital currency could enable the Bank of England to conduct forms of unconventional monetary policy more easily. The phrasing around this next sentence is super interesting to me because it's like, we heard that the Bank of England could program a CBDC to have an expiry date by which it would need to be spent, or conditions could be placed on that CBDC so that it could be spent on certain goods only. They give footnote 96 here. So you've got the House of Lords saying that, we just happened to hear this on the street that the Bank of England could do these type of things. Well, within the footnote, it directly calls out a Bank for International Settlements document, which ties in other central banks into that. It's kind of the foundational principles that they laid out with their core features they expect to have. I'll show you that in a second. But the second part of that footnote was, and I don't know if that's BIS one was accessed on December 15th or if it was the Ripple one. I'm assuming it's the Bank for International Settlements one. Then also written evidence from Ripple. So directly mentioned in this footnote. So again, footnote 96. I'll read it one more time. This is coming from the House of Lords, the Parliament, one of the three portions of the Parliament within the UK. We just happened to hear, that the Bank of England could program a CBDC to have an expiry date by which it would need to be spent, or conditions could be placed on a CBDC so that it could be spent on certain goods only. Before I lose track of this, I want to move right to this, which is what they are referencing. Now, whenever Ripple gives its explanation out as to some of the benefits of CBDCs, let's take that into context with what we literally just read within that UK Parliament document. CBDCs offer benefits that fiat currency does not. We believe there is a place for reliance on both physical and digital currency, and use of only one need not preclude the other. That said, digital forms of payment offer unique benefits that fiat currency does not. Specifically, unlike cash, a CBDC could enable micropayments or otherwise be quote-unquote programmed for specific uses to support government aims or macroeconomic policy, such as delivering targeted financial stimulus support to individuals and businesses. For this purpose, they could be time-bound. Now we just saw it just said expiry within the previous document. We also saw that programmable, but most of this is going to be programmable across the board. That's how these things are going to interact. But just really interesting, kind of the phraseology within that document, and then the footnote that they reference, and within that same footnote, this deals about the private version of the XRP ledger, which is the CBDC private ledger, based on the same tech that powers the XRP ledger. And the CBDC private ledger could also be utilized for payments and issuing currencies, and by leveraging the XRP ledger and associated RippleNet technologies. So it's obviously stating that these functionalities are all within the potential of these new systems that are going to be built. And it's just very interesting to me that we see these consistent, it's like consistency over time, or like it's just revalidation across the board where, I don't know, to me, like it's not financial advice. I'm not saying go out and buy XRP. It's just if it's in these conversations, or the potential for interoperation within these conversations, and there's only going to be probably like a handful, maybe like 10 at the very most, of like these ones that I think win out from the traditional financial institution standpoint, that just deal in traditional finance, that serve like one mechanism, and those ones are going to be really big. And even if it's like a tiny fraction of what's going on right now, it's an insane value proposition to me. So that's the biggest reason that I still maintain my confidence in XRP. It's because there's the chance that these we're seeing right now, that it's not just there's a chance. Those interoperability mechanisms are going to exist. The option to utilize XRP upon regulatory clarity is going to exist if these institutions want to take that on, if they want to utilize that capability. They may not need to. But it's just more confirmation for me across the board. I did want to say this real quick. Interesting that we're now seeing the governor of the Bank of France move to his new position as the chairperson of the board of directors at the Bank for International Settlements. If you would have asked me 2 or 3 years ago if I cared what was going on within like these institutions, I would have told you certainly not. But like, just seeing kind of the rhetoric coming out of the Bank of France, I think I did a video about a month and a half ago stating they had essentially 2 DLT tests left within their MVP that they wanted to accomplish. And we've also seen that the Central Bank of France literally mentioning and calling out Ripple/XRP to potentially be utilized as the system and the utility mechanism within the digital euro. Not necessarily the digital euro, but being built upon, or for the digital euro to be built out upon that. We can see that kind of within both of these things right here. This is 2021, which we found. I'll have to refind. Oh, here it is. Is this the one? Okay, so I could find the link, obviously, but this is note, and this is kind of from one of these like long papers again. France's central bank, the Bank of France, has openly discussed Ripple/XRP as a possible platform for Europe's central digital currency. Now, that was literally last year whenever that document came out. And I think this one came out late 2020, maybe January 2021. This was from the Bank of France as well. Now, this mentions both Ethereum and Ripple. Units issued on the wholesale CBDC's native blockchain could be transferred to other blockchains. Since the attributes of a unit of the wholesale CBDC may be integrated in a crypto asset circulating on other blockchain, which is possible on Ethereum, and Ripple, for example, would then become possible to use this unit on this blockchain. It's like, to me, when I see these moves where like the ex-governor of the Bank of France just moves as a chairperson for the Bank for International Settlements, it's like, it may not be the asset that I'm holding, but there's only a handful of assets with like DLT that are going to be integrating with, that interoperate with some of these DLTs that are going to be integrating with the powerhouses, these central banks across the board. And it's like they're trying to like close off gaps, I think, because these people just float between institutions. But I'm sure that's probably always been the case anyways. But it's just really interesting to see kind of the timeline with how the Central Bank of France has really progressed. We see on June 29th, 2021, for example, we don't have much time, maybe 1 or 2 years. Everybody's talking about CBDCs, but first and much clearer, we need to regulate crypto assets, then implement European payments initiatives. So, I mean, it's like this stuff is coming. And we're just led more and more so to believe it with, kind of this final announcement about why I think regulation for real innovation and like connectivity and DeFi aspects and empowering people is extremely important. because China is not stopping development. They're creating their own NFT industry based on state-backed blockchain infrastructure. This came out earlier today. Now, this is it's called a BSN, so Blockchain Service Network Distributed Digital Certificate. Not going to support crypto transacted NFTs. It's going to allow businesses and individuals to build apps and portals to manage tokens. I'm certain there will be just an extreme amount of oversight within this. But what, you can see the 10 chains, 10-cent-backed fintech firm WeBank. I mean, there's big names in this, obviously. Also, kind of the interesting thing, I'll leave it at this, is like their main focus, at least from the dude who was interviewed within this initiative within China, is to potentially deal in certificate management, car license plates, school diplomas, things like that. So it's certainly more so of that, like, I look at that as personal data type things. You know what I mean? Like, having my stuff on some of, like, one of these, like, government or private ran things, is always something of concern as well. But yeah, what's going on with China, we'll just see, because they're certainly not stopping. Again, seeing what's coming out of the House of Lords, these government documents directly mentioning Ripple, we do know that the private aspects within these CBDC ledgers are going to have functionality to interoperate with other things like the XRPL itself or other RippleNet product suites. Like, it's literally right there within the document. This is on publications.parliament.uk, which is committees.parliament.uk for this Ripple one that they mentioned within this House of Lords one. So I think it's just ridiculous, and we consistently see validation, and hopefully we can continue finding these breadcrumbs to potentially empower ourselves. And I would love to be able to do it with, like, some newer assets as well. We're certainly going to see that stuff. I mean, we do see it every once in a while when there's these, like, bigger scale type things. But talking with CBDCs, there's only probably a handful of groups or a handful of these organizations in the group that are actually to the point with real fleshed out testing, and it's like only a matter of time with assets that can interoperate within those groups' mechanisms. So I love you guys. I will talk to you guys whenever I talk to you, and take it easy later.